we on?
How are you,
I'm
Fiskani?
amazing. Thank you so much for you guys. Thank you guys for having me. This is so amazing. I'm so mad I missed the first part
I see.
this morning. However, what I've learned in this second half, this is amazing. Thank you, Frida. This is,
And if you can't,
else. This is amazing.
and if you can't tell, this is our resident fashionista. And
I thought she was toned down. I was like, you definitely
She
came a
is.
little bit toned down.
This is toned down. This is toned down. Yeah, so my name is Fiskani Kaira, and I'm into fashion. As you can see, I'm a little bright, as always.
Just keep the mic burning.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? We good? Okay, there we go. So my name is Fiskani. I'm into fashion, and I own the Ivy Showroom, which is a big showroom here in Atlanta, the actual only showroom in Atlanta that does rentals. And so it's an
What does that
interesting-
mean when you say
Right, so it's an interesting concept. I'm from Zambia, Ndola, and I'm gonna take you back and land the plane. So I grew up in Ndola, but halfway through my childhood, we moved here, and my parents were fortunate enough to send us to America for better education and things of that nature. And I remember before coming to America, my father saying, you know, so you're gonna be a lawyer, you're gonna be a doctor, you're gonna be an accountant. Like he told, it was 4 of us in the household, and we all were given what we were supposed to be. And so I come to America, and I go to school, I went to college, everything was amazing. I was in the finance sector in school, and I dropped out. And that was a faux pas in my, you know, from my family. Like, what are you doing? Why would you drop? You were on schedule. And I had a very interesting, I mean, growing up, my mother knew I was a little different from my siblings because she noticed I liked fashion. I would notice things. I noticed Hugh had on Porsche Adidas. And I would do things like that because I had a very high IQ for fashion. But it wasn't accepted because I was supposed to go to school and be in finance.
They
so
don't-
what
Those things
gave
will-
you the courage to step outside of that? Because I think every African kid in that diaspora has been through that, and you know, all these expectations to kind of go the traditional route. And we talked about that now, right? Now it's fashionable to break the mold and do all these cool things, but I can't imagine it was when you did it.
Well, I think that's what, back to Frida. A month or so ago, she asked me to be here. And I said, what is this thing? I mean, you know, I probably won't fit in. Here I am, colorful. I am what I am. I'm a bit of a wild card. You know, even in my industry, I pioneered this showroom that's never been done before. So what am I doing? What is this? So she's like this, you know, shifting mindsets and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, well, the shifting mindset part, I'm in. Because, you know, even my own family, it didn't make sense what I was doing. And even when I started fashion. I couldn't even tell my parents that's what I was doing initially. But when I did, they were like, what? Fashion? What degree do you get in that? Who does fashion? You can't even sew. What is this? And it was like, no, so I'm going to be styling celebrities. What is styling? Like hairstyling? I'm like, no, you actually find people and you dress them and they're on TV or they're musicians. And my father was like, this is stupid. This is a hobby, and I don't know, good luck. I'm not funding you anymore, because at this point I was very young, and he was able to fund my lifestyle. He paid for my schooling, apartments, and so on and so forth. So at this point, I was cut off. Because you want to do stupid things, you know, you want to play stupid games, you get stupid prizes. You know, you go ahead and you go do your fashion thing, but this doesn't align with what the world should be. And so I was out here by myself, and I was like, this has to work. I really don't know what I'm doing either, but this has to work. I know I have a niche for this. I go in rooms, I look at people, I could sell. I won't know your names, but I'll say everything you have on. That was my niche. Like, I notice everything. And then I would then notice to say, but maybe if you would have did this and that, and you know, and wouldn't say it, but I said, how do I get in a professional place where you can do this? And there was such a thing. I found it here in Atlanta. It was a thing called styling. And so I got into the career of styling now celebrities. And they, I don't know, found themselves attracted to me, maybe because of my vibe, and I'm always
Can
looking
you do
like
some
this.
name dropping? Just for the audience, because, I mean,
So
after
it's-
my experience out there now, I'm just a fan. I'm over here acting like a fan. So, why don't you go ahead and give us some names?
So I'll start with my first. So the first guy I started with was a guy named Akon. And I called my father. I said, I'm doing this guy named Akon. He said, what's an Akon? So I said, Dad, it's this guy. And he's like, okay, whatever. And so him and I, he's African as well. He's from Senegal. And so here we are, he'd never been a musician, obviously, well, to that level, and I'd never styled. And we looked at each other like, we could do this. We're just gonna hold each other's hands.
Who doesn't know who Akon is in here?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
All right, I'm just...
So he was my first, and luckily for us, his career took off like a rocket. And we traveled the world, and I had to now learn all these things. Luckily, I did go to college. I did have the science, I did have a business acumen. And so I had to start taking meetings with big record companies like Universal Records, and they'll take me in and say, so what do you plan on doing with this guy? He looks this way, he looks African. We've never had a guy that looked this way and put him up on the mainstream, so what are you going to do? And again, the little IQ thing that I had, I say, okay, we're gonna change his style, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And it worked. And because I didn't have a resume, so I'm in this big meeting, and there are people that actually had resumes that had been doing fashion for years with bigger names, obviously. And here I am, like, okay, so this is what I think we're gonna do with this subject. And that mood board, we call them mood boards, it was a presentation like everyone is doing today. That presentation of a mood board actually worked. So what we did and where we took him from to merge the two continents, him being African in America, doing an African-American merge in music, it actually worked. And from then I was able to style hundreds of more celebrities because that worked. And it was a first of its. Well, him, not that he was the first African musician, the first merge that they did from that record company to say, African guy, a Senegalese guy, doing music in America, marketing to an American audience. Wow. We're taking a chance to see if this will make our money back. But he went on to make millions of dollars doing that. He's now like making smart cities
Akon
somewhere
City.
in the world. Like he's doing smart cities somewhere.
And I
in the
think
world.
he's made so much money that he doesn't even you're
Name
not
drop?
styling him anymore, clearly, because he's got so much money. He doesn't
Yes, he was actually just in my showroom last week, but so we've all taken different paths, but yeah.
It's amazing to see that the power of the diaspora gave you your start.
Yes,
And
absolutely, it did.
How do you think the current moment we're in as a diaspora and in pop culture, right? Africa is hot right now. It's the sexiest thing out there. Essence was the song of the summer. I don't know if this crowd is familiar, but
They are.
Anyways, that was a song of the summer. What opportunity do you think that presents for young African stylists as yourself and fashion designers?
Right.
And what can the diaspora do to support artists like yourself?
Well, first to answer your question is courage. She said courage. You have to have the courage to step out there. And I picked up from Hugh, I think, if he's here. Outside of courage, you have to take, I think the most simplest thing that you do is what will bring you millions of dollars. I told you I have a high IQ for fashion, so I will scan this room, and I may not know.
Did you edit my outfit?
Listen, I may not know everyone's name, but I can go back and say, yeah, the lady who had the pink on with the yellow scarf. That would be what I pick up on. So even to say, in growing up, I watched a lot of music videos. That was the thing in my era. But my sister, who was older, she liked sci-fi. She watched Star Trek and things like that. It didn't interest me. She was older than me. E.T. or, things, I was like, what is this? Music videos were a thing in the 80s or 90s, right? And I picked up on fashion in them. My brother, he liked the music, the sound of it, And so all this to say, the smallest thing, and like what Hugh said, into it was because of a smart lady who couldn't balance a checkbook. Not that she couldn't, but, you know, so the smallest thing in your household or in your backyard is what you then now expand and make a business and get the right people behind the business, and now you have an empire. So I think a lot of times people will go and read and, you know, let me go read an Oprah bio or this person's, you know, bio and stuff like that. But you're not going to be them. It's like your hand. You have 5 fingers. None of these are the same, right? So you will not be like, you know, Elon Musk or whoever else. You're just not. Your story is different. My story is different. This is my story, organically. So if you go right in your backyard, figure out what you're good at, which is simple. Some people are great at baking. So you're just a great baker. But you own, you know, the biggest bread making company now, you know? So I think in the diaspora, you just have to encourage. And you know, I had to shift my parents' mindset from not being this thing, because it was like, here goes another kid that wants to, you know, go off passion or whatever the case is, and that can go very wrong very easily.
We're not retiring.
Yeah, it can go very, very. So I had to shift their mindset, and now I think we kind of on board, and it's taken years. It took so long for my parents, or my mother's always been involved, but my father to say, what is this thing? And one day I got a phone call from him, and I could tell it was a room full of, like it was a full living room. When they entertained, you could hear all the people in the living room. He was all the way in Dola, and he calls me on speaker. Hey, Fisya! I'm like, hey, Dad, what's going on? Yeah, so we're watching TV. We're watching the Emmys, I think it's called. I was telling my friends, you're probably there. I'm in Atlanta, Dad. I'm not at the Emmys. And he's like, oh, I was just telling them, my daughter's probably at this thing with these people, you know, and, you know, she's probably, yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm not there. I've never even been there, Dad. Oh, well, I know it's one of these things. Okay, I'll call you back. I guess the phone call didn't go as planned, but I knew at that point that was his level of, you know, yeah, I kind of like this thing, you know.
So
Mike showroom, yes. Now, 20 years later, yeah, but before, yeah, don't name it anything. I don't want to be a part of this thing. I don't want to be a part of this joke, you know. But yeah, the Ivy showroom is now a thing. Yes. But it took years to get here, and we cater to so many people. And our latest thing is we cater to everyone, so we are door to door. And that has encouraged a lot of fashionistas. I stayed in Ghana for a month this summer.
I follow her, I saw that.
Yeah, so
I'm a fan.
I lived in Ghana for 32 days. And I was filming a movie out there. They hired me. And I met so many people that were just encouraged. And coming from that side of the world, they're like, wow, if I could only make it on that side. And I'm like, no, I want to come back on this side. You know, so it's like, hey, what are we going to do to merge the two, which we are good at. So again, we go into our backyard and bringing and landing this plane.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.